From the Nepsis Capital Management Studios, this is AM 1280, The Patriot, WWTC, Minneapolis, St. Paul, Intelligent Radio.
With SRN News, I'm Ron DeRockstra. Wrapping up a two-day NATO summit in Warsaw, President Obama says the Dallas shooter and others who've committed such horrific acts is not what America is about.
The demented individual who carried out those attacks in Dallas, he's no more representative of African Americans than the shooter in Charleston was representative of white Americans.
The president's scheduled to visit Spain on his way home, but will cut the trip short to be in Dallas later this next week. The investigation continues in Dallas after Thursday's sniper attack. A major chunk of downtown still closed, will be for several days. At the NATO summit in Warsaw, Prime Minister David Cameron saying Britain will keep 450 troops in Afghanistan through the year 2017. NATO leaders agreeing to do more to support countries in North Africa and the Middle East that are prey to violent Islamic extremism. This is SRN News.
There's only one way to win back the White House. One way to get the country back. One way to make the 8-year nightmare go away. It all starts in Cleveland in July. And finally, it's time to get it started.
Let's get it started.
Join most of our hosts for live coverage from the GOP convention, the biggest story of the year. And it starts and ends right here, beginning July 18th. AM 1280, The Patriot, Intelligent Radio.
Patriot is your home for all the up-to-the-minute GOP convention coverage. Join the Patriot lineup as they broadcast live from Cleveland for what could be a very interesting convention. Details at am1280thepatriot.com. It's your forecast from the Blue Ox Heating and Air Weather Center. High near 80 and sunny today. Tonight, low around 64. Tomorrow, about the same. High near 84, although a little bit more cloudy.
This hour of the Northern Alliance Radio Network is brought to you by Thompson Building and Remodeling. With over 30 years of experience in home repair and remodeling, Thompson Building and Remodeling can ensure you have a quality job done right. From expert roofing, siding, and window installation to full additions and more. To see their work, visit online at thompsonpros.com. Thompson supports the Northern Alliance Radio Network to bring Patriot listeners a local voice in local and national politics. The Northern Alliance is on.
The Northern Alliance Radio Network with Mitch Berg.
Therefore, the burden of maintaining the peace falls on us. And to maintain that peace requires strength.
The Northern Alliance Radio Network on AM 1280, The Patriot.
Welcome back, Twin Cities and World. It's the wind beneath the right wing. The show that says, send us your tired, huddled masses yearning to see red. The Northern Alliance Radio Network, AM 1280, The Patriot. Brought to you this week, as every week, by Thompson Building and Remodeling, found on the web at thompsonpros.com. It's the official builders and remodelers of the Northern Alliance Radio Network, and we say that for a reason. That's what they're here for. That's what they do. They do great building and remodeling, and they've been doing it for our listeners for about as long as this show's been on the air, and with good reason. They are the best in the business. We refer the best customers in the business to them. Everyone is both happy and, well, the best in their respective businesses. Go to thompsonpros.com. Give Jeff O'Meara a call. Tell him Mitch Berg sent you. He'll know exactly who you mean. My name is Mitch Berg. My blog, shotinthedark.info, going on 15 years now as one of Minnesota's most down-the-middle political blogs. Of course, the Northern Alliance going on 13 years as the dominators of Twin Cities Weekend Radio. Brad Carlson coming up 2 o'clock tomorrow on AM 1280. King Banyan every Saturday morning, 9 to 11 on AM 1440. The Businessman, where the Northern Alliance, we've been imitated. No one's come close yet. So here we are, sitting in a studio in Eagan, the most conservative station here in the Twin Cities anywhere. The station that was doing conservative back when other stations were still doing light jazz, if you catch my drift, and I think you do. The station that has been conservative as other stations turn to sports, if you follow what I'm saying here. And yet, we are in a district that has flipped rather maddeningly to the DFL over the course of the last couple of years. I mean, 6 years ago, we had in 2010, we had a completely Republican contingent here in House District 51A and B and Senate District 51. And then back in 2012, things flipped, and that's been the most galling, frustrating situation, especially given that there have been some very close races and some very good candidates. With us to talk about one of those races, in a race that we are targeting here at AM 1280 The Patriot, because by God, it stinks doing business in a Democrat district. Our next guest, candidate for Senate in Senate District 51, Victor Lake. Victor, welcome to the broadcast.
Thank you, Mitch. It's an honor to be here.
It's an honor to have you here, Victor Lake. You're running for the Senate. Of course, all 3 seats here in Senate District 51, Egan in the 2nd Congressional District, the south suburbs of St. Paul. All 3 of them are held by the DFL.
Indeed.
And it's completely maddening. We're going to be talking with all 3 of the candidates over the next couple of weeks for House and Senate. You're the Senate candidate, so we're going to lead off with you here today. Let's talk, before we talk about the actual race and about the district for which you are running, let's talk about you. Give us a little bit of the idea where Victor Lake comes from.
Okay, I'd be honored to talk about that. So, I was born in a former state of in the Soviet Union called Uzbekistan, which is just north of Afghanistan.
Right.
And my dad was a beekeeper, so we were there on business.
Okay.
Now, when the Soviet Union collapsed, a civil war broke out, and it was chaotic. So we had to flee from Uzbekistan back to Russia, where my parents are originally from. And that's another tumultuous region that we moved to, the North Caucasus region, so not too far away from Chechnya.
Okay.
And that's
Your parents knew how to pick them, didn't they?
yeah.
Brought it from the frying pan into the fire.
Tell me about it. And so it was tough for a big family, 8 kids. My parents had. Wow. I have 5 sisters and 2 brothers. Small town Russia was very tough for a big family.
Yep.
Living, in a place where small business wasn't even a concept or a word in a dictionary.
Really?
And freedom was not very often spoken of.
Right.
And so when we got a chance to immigrate to this promised land, so-called promised land, which in a lot of respects it is,
right.
America. And we went through the rigorous process of coming here as religious refugees, because my parents endured persecution when under communism, and we came here on the status of religious refugees in 1997.
Wow. Okay, so you've been here almost 20 years now.
Almost 20 years.
Excellent. So you after that you came here. Presumably you went to school. You did you assimilated as an American. Quite obviously. You are running for office, so that's a pretty good sign. What do you do in real life?
Well, let me back up a little bit.
Yes.
So when we came here in 1997 with a shirt on our back, no language, no money, we were very grateful for Minnesota and Minnesotans who supported us, and we were on some government assistance because that's how we survived.
Right.
But we started learning the language immediately and assimilated, like you said. We started cleaning office buildings with my parents after school. Boy, we hated it. All the kids got to play, and we had to clean office buildings for $1,200-$1,500 a month.
Wow.
5 of us cleaning every night. Eventually, we opened our cleaning business, a janitorial business. My parents did, and we had people working for us and with us. Eventually, we sold that business, and my dad went into flooring construction.
Okay.
And ran a pretty successful business until 2008 when the economy crashed.
Oof.
Yep. And then I went to college. That's when I got a degree from Northwestern College in St. Paul.
Okay.
And then after that, after I graduated, I decided to go back into flooring. And so here I am. I own Metro Floors Incorporated. That's my company, and we're in the flooring business.
And of course, the flooring business is very tied to the vicissitudes of the housing business. And
Absolutely.
There's ups and there's downs, and you're certainly in tune with the world of the small businessman in a way that most of our politicians in downtown St. Paul don't seem to be these days. So you seem an eminently sane person who certainly knows the way around the small business world from the bottom up, literally, from the floor on up. What prompted you to run for for office. This is your second time around, by the way. 2 years ago, you ran, I believe, on the B side.
Yes, on the A side.
I knew it was going to be the other. Whichever one I guess it'll be the other. You ran for 51A 2 years ago. Ran a good race. You ran in the primary, but not primary. You ran for the endorsement, I believe.
Endorsement. There was no endorsement. We ran in the primary, and I lost by about 150 votes.
That's right, closer. And then the person who won went on to run a very close race for the actual House seat.
Yes, and we sadly lost.
So it's a lot of sad losses. Yeah, absolutely. A number of very close races. So you decided to come around again, run for Senate. What led you to do that, and why are you running?
I'm running not because it's fun. Believe me. I mean, there's a lot of work and sacrifice that goes into it.
Yeah.
But I truly believe in what I'm doing, and I believe the stakes are high. That's why I'm running.
Yeah.
We came here for freedom. If I could describe it in one word, it would be freedom.
Yeah.
And opportunity, religious freedom, economic freedom, personal liberty.
Right.
That's all very dear to us. And I feel like that's slipping away from us a little bit, and that's troubling for my family. And so I have a lot of my neighbors and a lot of political activists and my family that encourage me to run. And I'm doing it for my children. I'm doing it for my neighbors. I'm doing it for Egan, Burnsville, and all Minnesotans.
Absolutely. So, yeah, and you're right. It is a lot of work. I've been impressed with every House candidate and Senate candidate that I've dealt with here, how very, very hard it is to run for office at all, any kind of a campaign. You certainly get your cardio in. I mean, it's a lot of door knocking today. In fact, that's what we interrupted today, a little taking a half hour off from door knocking here. So I cranked the AC up just for you.
Oh, it's much better down here.
Thank you very much. Basements are nice on days like today. So getting a little more serious here. It's what's your stump speech? What do you telling your people when you meet them round and about Egan here in Burnsville?
Great question. I say I'm a person just like you. I live in this great city, great state. I love it. I came here as an immigrant. I came to appreciate this country and this state tremendously. Love the people. This is my home. I'm proud to be an American. And I'm running for those things that I just told you, because I care about the future. I care that our roads and bridges get fixed so we drive safely and we get from point A to point B fairly quickly. And I want our business community to thrive, to hire people so that middle class thrives. People like immigrants like myself can climb the ladder and do well.
Right.
So very, very simple, but I think it's the underlayment. It's what our society is built on.
Do you get the impression, and this is not strictly related to your campaign, but I think it bears on the things you're bringing up in what you just said. Do you think Americans really get where we are in terms of freedom compared to the rest of the world? Certainly compared to where you came from, growing up in the Soviet Union. Do you think Americans really understand what's at stake largely?
You know, a lot of them do, but many of them don't.
Right.
And that's our job, to go out there and inform them. And I've been very encouraged that it doesn't matter which side of politics they're on.
Right.
My story is very resounding when they hear my story, and they look at me very differently than they would at a usual candidate. Running. So I tell them my story, that I've lived under liberal policies and we suffered. My family literally suffered, and we came here and we love this country and we appreciate the freedom, and the freedom is not what it used to be, and it's getting worse. And I think people do agree with that. Of course, there are always going to be people who disagree.
Right.
But we're very excited that our campaign is appealing to a lot of different folks here in the district.
Absolutely, and as well it should. And of course, getting across the message that freedom isn't just freedom from wanting things, which is, of course, what the other side is selling. You can be free from wondering where your mortgage payment is coming from, or free from your grocery bills, or free from health care bills. That's not freedom. That's the freedom your pets get at home. That's not being a pet. Being livestock is not freedom. That's just being taken care of by someone bigger and more powerful than you.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So this is a message that we have to get. In fact, this is a message we don't just need on the streets of Egan. We need downtown at the Capitol.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and that'll be great to have someone with your perspective on what freedom is in that pool full of wannabe pet owners downtown at the Capitol here. Nothing would make me happier than to get you down there and join the minority that actually believes it down there. Well, let's just hit this before we get to the break here. What's your website? Where can people find out more about the Victor Lake campaign?
My website's very simple. It's victorlake.com.
Okay, they've gotten a lot of use out of that website over the last couple of years here. I have, that's great. We'll come back with that, and we'll post that at shotinthedark.info a little later on in the broadcast. Let's take a break right now. When we come back, we'll take phone calls for Victor Lake, as well as a few more questions about the campaign here. It's the Northern Alliance Radio Network, AM 1280 The Patriot. Go nowhere. We'll be right back.
It's about your life and your money. It's the Dave Ramsey Show.
A good friend of mine that's wealthy says when you're giving money, you're investing money. You're investing money in someone else's life. And if you were investing $1, you would not spend a lot of time analyzing that $1 investment. But if you were investing $1,000, you'd spend a lot of time. And so the more you give, the more due diligence you should have in the ministry or the charity that you are giving to.
Listen to the Dave Ramsey Show every weekday evening at 5 on our sister station, Business 1440.
Join Gene Sullivan each week on Where You Live, where he takes on... Gene, who do you take on anyway?
Maniacal landlords, slippery renters, overbearing HOA boards, demand homeowners. Oh, and the legislative lunacy brought on by local politicians wanting to fix everything for us.
It's a common sense perspective on the news and stories that affect you the most, right where you live. Join Gene Sullivan every Saturday morning at 10 a.m. on AM 1280, The Patriot.
Are you a responsible person who finds yourself growing deeper and deeper in credit card debt and you're not sure how to fix the problem? Then get ready for a toll-free number that will put you on a path to financial recovery. Trinity Debt Management is a non-profit organization that will consolidate your accounts into one easy-to-manage monthly payment. Put a stop to late fees and over-limit charges and reduce your interest rates by as much as 60%. You'll save thousands and become debt-free for keeps. It's not a loan. It's a smart way to relieve your stress, meet your obligations, and preserve your self-respect. If your debt has you down, we should talk. Gather up your bills and call this toll-free number for a free, no-obligation debt analysis. 1-800-990-6976. That's 1-800-990-6976. If you're in debt and you need help, call Trinity at 1-800-990-6976.
The following fraud alert is being issued in your area as a warning for homeowners, especially owners with equity in their homes or own vacation and rental properties. Mortgage fraud, known as house stealing, is the fastest growing white-collar crime in America, according to the FBI. You may think you're protected, but your current Identity Theft Protection Service does not monitor your home. Homeowners in this area are strongly advised to visit the National Fraud Alert Service, HomeTitleLock.com, to sign up for a risk-free trial. HomeTitleLock.com is the only monitoring service of its kind and is now available to homeowners with a 60-day risk-free trial. Find out if you're already a victim, get alerts on any activity, and take control of your most valuable asset, your home. Go to HomeTitleLock.com to start your risk-free trial, backed by a 100% money-back guarantee. It's your home protected. Go to HomeTitleLock.com. That's HomeTitleLock.com.
AM 1280 The Patriot, Northern Alliance Radio Network, 651-289-4488. My name is Mitch Berg, my blog, shotinthedark.info. Just a quick reminder, 2 weeks from last night, or a week from this coming Friday, July 22nd, at the Driftwood Char Bar, South Minneapolis, 44th and Nicollet, my band, Elephant in the Room, is playing 7 till 8:30, $5 cover, so it's early enough where it won't wreck your weekend, and it's cheap enough where it won't mess up your date night. So hope you can see there. That's my band, Elephant in the room. We're talking with Victor Lake, candidate for Minnesota State Senate here in Senate District 51, which is Eagan-Burnsville, this whole area down here. Speaking of elephants in the room, Victor Lake, Donald Trump, obviously the huge factor in this election here right now. You can't turn on the news without hearing about him. Certainly a polarizing figure. I can imagine he's polarizing people on your campaign trail as well here. What's it like campaigning for a local race when you have a Donald Trump eating up all the oxygen in the electoral room?
Yep, great question. It's a challenge, but at the same time, it can be very interesting.
Oh, yeah.
So, unfortunately, most people pay attention to what's going on in the national level, and that's because of media.
Yep.
And they don't really pay attention to what's going on with the local races. An average person I'm talking about here.
Right.
And so when I door knock, I have to refocus their attention a little bit. I mean, it's no secret that both of the candidates at the top of the ticket are controversial, and there's a lot of things going on around that people either hate or love.
Right.
And so I like to just tell people to focus on what's going on in the local level, which affects you a lot more, in my opinion.
Exactly.
With the local races, state house, state senate, city council, and others. And so I refocus to talk about roads and bridges and taxes and here locally and education and things like that. And people get it.
That's what and that's great. And it's great to hear you say that. And that's what I've been hammering on with a lot of people who say, I mean, in my district, I'm in St. Paul, I've had a few people who came out for caucuses and then dropped out of all the parties saying, I could never share a party with Donald Trump. And I've been trying to tell them, we got a lot of good people running down ticket here for Congress, for Greg Ryan running for Congress in the 4th. We don't know exactly who yet in the 2nd down here, but likely Jason Lewis here at this point. We have a lot of really good people running for state house and Senate candidates. And these are the people at city councils and school boards. And these are the people who really affect your day-to-day life. More than the president ever will, more than Congress really will in a lot of ways.
For sure.
In terms of your roads, your schools, your crime and law and order in your city, we're seeing the effect that has had in this past couple of days here in the Twin Cities. I mean, just the effect that local policy has, and the way all the good and mostly bad that our state legislature does. If you stay home because of Donald Trump, you're enabling a lot of really misguided people to do a lot of really bad stuff with our state budget.
Yes, totally agree with that.
Absolutely. So what kind of responses do you get from people out and about the streets of Eagan and Burnsville about the big elephant in the room, if you will?
Well, they do want to talk about that.
Okay.
But I say that I can't control what happens there, and I frankly don't know. It's anybody's guess, who's going to be our next president, and I don't have control over that. But I tell them that I do have control over the Senate race that I'm running,
right?
For campaign for, and I would like to focus on things, local things. And like I said, people get it. It works to refocus on what matters here locally. And I have good success talking about, instead of Hillary and Trump, talking about 51 and St. Paul and what's going on in our state.
Which is what people really need to be concerned with right now. So for those who are curious, and I know people are, because I hear this from people all the time, what do they really stand for? A lot of people feel burned by Republicans, especially on the national level here. So let's talk about you in office. If, God willing, you do win the race here this November. Talk about what you're going to stand for in St. Paul when you get out on that Senate floor.
Yep. And then I'm running on one premise, that I came here for freedom and opportunity. My family came here, and I will stand for anything that expands our opportunity, that and people's freedom. Whatever will grant us the most freedom and whatever will help us thrive as a society, economically. That's what I will stand for.
Okay. And that's obviously, I mean, you're going to be sitting with the, hopefully, I'm just going to cross my fingers and hope, sitting with the conservative minority in the Senate. hopefully a majority by the time the election comes and goes. And we got to keep our fingers crossed on that, because being only controlling one chamber of the legislature certainly hasn't done us any favors here. When it comes to taxes and spending, you get a position on how much the state spends. I mean, clearly it's too much, and the taxes are just insane in the state, especially if you're a small business person. Taxes and regulations out of control. Freedom for business people is certainly has to be an issue when you look at the small business economy in this state.
Yes, and I talk a lot about that with people as well, and surprisingly, it's people agree on both sides of the aisle, both parties. When I door knock and say, I'm frugal with my finances and my business and my personal finances, and that's exactly what I'll stand for when I'm in St. Paul. I think there's been a tremendous amount of waste of our hard-earned money in St. Paul, and it's not good. It's not right.
It is. Let's talk briefly about what people here in Eagan and Burnsville are concerned with. I mean, I live in St. Paul, and so the meeting and that conversation down there is more about the damage the Green Line has done, how much money the city wants to squander on a soccer stadium, and all the murders up and down University Avenue. Gratefully, you have a better degree of problems out here in Eagan and Burnsville. What are people concerned with out here when you're listening to them talk as you're out and about the streets?
Well, anything from roads and bridges to health insurance, MNsure, is a big one, and taxation.
Yeah. Do you think people get I mean, has the I work in the healthcare industry for my day job, and I don't think people get the fact that a lot of the worst of Obamacare and, by extension, MNsure is yet to come. I mean, you think it's bad what we've seen this last 6 years. You ain't seen nothing yet. It's just beginning. Do you think people really get the ramifications of what MNsure is going to bring to their lives?
I'll tell you this. People that have been affected by it already, they get it. People that haven't, they don't really care about it as much.
Absolutely. No, I've noticed that too. Until it hits you, the media has done a great job of covering up the dragon that's coming down the road. Well, let's go to the phones. In Eagan, Gail, welcome to the Northern Alliance Radio Network. You're on the line with Victor Lake.
Thank you. Yeah, I was kind of curious about how the impact of regulations on his business. See if he has an opportunity to talk about that.
Yeah, so you're a small business person. You work in the flooring business. I mean, your family's been in the flooring business for a while now. Let's talk about the impact of regulations on your life as a small business person, Victor Lake.
Yep. We're mostly a service provider, so regulation hasn't. There isn't anything direct that I can talk to you about right now.
Right.
But I know that setting up your own construction business could be a daunting task, licensing fees and going through all the bureaucracy to set up a business for somebody who just wants to do great work and get paid for it, fixing up people's homes. That's a difficult thing to accomplish sometimes.
It is. And on the other hand, I mean, the regulations that the state puts on housing in general. I mean, I'm not a construction person. I did it briefly when I got out of college, and then I got back into radio. And it's a good thing because that's where my talents are. I mean, I was one of the worst roofing and siding people in the history of North Dakota. Let's be honest. But I worked on I worked on a Habitat for Humanity project, and having dealt with houses in the past, I looked at I sat there talking with one of the Habitat people, building a fairly standard row house in St. Paul, and dealing with all the federal, state, and especially local regulations on what you have to do to build a house, and the price of this pretty modest little ticky-tack house in a pretty, let's just say, challenged neighborhood was out of this world, and it's almost entirely because of regulations. God knows it wasn't the land value on Dale and Thomas, for crying out loud, and yet this piece of affordable housing was completely unaffordable to anyone in the neighborhood without a lot of government subsidy. Thank you, regulation. And that brings down if there's less opportunity to build houses that people can afford, that's less opportunity for you to put floors into them. And I don't think people a lot of people out there that you're meeting, I don't think realize the trickle-down effect that these regulations have on businesses like yours and every other business that deals with houses and people who buy them.
Absolutely. That does have a big effect on us. We're closely tied to we are in the housing industry. That's where we are.
You are. And I bet you don't get a lot of calls from St. Paul these days, do you?
No, not as much. We do a lot of suburbs.
I bet you do, because that's where the smell of competence and prosperity still reigns. And thank your lucky stars you're here. I'm here to say that. We'll talk about the housing industry in St. Paul some other time. We're up against the break. Victor Lake, what's your website one more time for people who want to pitch in?
It's www.victorlake.com.
I'll post that at shotinthedark.info. What kind of help do you need? Everybody needs money at this time of the race here. There's literature and signs to print. What kind of help could you also use from people if they're interested in pitching in and flipping this district?
So votes is what we need to win, right?
Right.
So getting out and voting,
yep.
First priority, talking to your neighbors and for them to get out and vote. Second, and then money so we can get our story out, get the name out, buy lawn signs, and buy literature to get out to people.
So if you live in 51, obviously it's the votes that you need. If you live outside of Senate District 51, obviously you could pitch in a few bucks. That could not possibly hurt, and much more. So I'll post the link at shotinthedark.info. Victor Lake will do this again sometime. Best of luck on the road here. Back out, dropping lit here today. So
thank you, Mitch.
Best of luck.
Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Northern Alliance Radio Network, AM 1280, The Patriot. Up next are ghoulish, blood-sucking gun control groups. What am I talking about? Be right back and find out.
Hi, I'm Bruce Maida, the head of school at Bethany Academy, and here's our junior high highlight. If you have a student in junior high, you might be hearing phrases such as, oh my gosh, like, I'm so sure, or dude, more than you think you can stand. In turn, you might be saying, put your phone away. Why didn't you turn in your assignment? And you forgot your lunch again? More than you care to. Welcome to the wonderful world of junior high, where most everything takes a backseat to social dynamics. At Bethany Academy, we think this typical time of self-focus is God's perfect opportunity to build awareness of the world around them and also to find the Spirit of God within them. We love to encourage every junior high school student's need to find out who they are in God and how He intends to use their unique gifts to advance His kingdom, because we think they are all way cool.
Bethany Academy equips students through educational excellence and Christ-centered relationships to impact the world for Christ. Contact us at bethanyacademy.org.
A home, the biggest purchase you'll ever make in your life. Sounds overwhelming, but it does not have to be if you're working with the right team. My name is Jason Light with Envoy Mortgage. For over a decade, I've been helping people get the best financing as we will work together, and we will get you fully approved by an underwriter far in advance. Now all you have to do is focus on finding the perfect home, all at no cost or obligation. So call me at 612-419-4517. NMLS ID 666 and individual NMLS ID 17256.
People who can afford a LASIK procedure are sure lucky. Imagine being able to throw away your contacts and glasses. Imagine waking up tomorrow with 20/20 vision. Too bad everyone can't afford LASIK. Well, guess what? There's a company that agrees with you. TLC Laser Eye Centers is now offering great prices on high-quality LASIK to make it affordable for everyone. That means you get the latest FDA-approved all-laser LASIK technology for less than what others charge. And if you call right now, we'll schedule a free appointment so you can discover if LASIK is right for you. Results may vary. Call 1-800-194-7225. Even better, if you're one of the first 100 callers, ask about an extra $400 off your all-laser LASIK procedure. That's $200 off per eye. We've already performed over 2 million procedures. Let us help you. Discover how you can get the quality LASIK experience you deserve for less than what others charge. For your free appointment, call 1-800-914-7225. 1-800-914-7225.
Financial Fortitude with Dale Creed Francis and Ryan Litvin, pointing out today's challenges in the economy for today's investors.
So what's maximizing your Social Security, it's figuring out ways that are best to take a pension that you may have, creating a lifetime income strategy from whatever asset base it is you have, really evoke the mind and get people thinking about, hey, these things might work for me.
Saturday at 3 and Sundays at 11 a.m. here on AM 1280, The Patriot.
AM 1280, The Patriot, Northern Alliance Radio Network, 651-289-4488, the number to call. Join us if you would, please. Make my day if you did, in fact. You can also join us on Twitter at hashtag NARN, that's Northern Alliance Radio Network, the Twitter home of the Northern Alliance. And it's been one of those days, literally, where I could go through 4 or 5 hours without needing notes, and it's a shame I've only got 2 today because there's a lot needs to be talked about. I'll be continuing to talk about all these issues in the coming week at shotinthedark.info. Philandro Castile had a permit to carry his firearm when he was shot. He illustrates, as I said during the first 2 segments of the show, the caution you need to take when you are a legitimate carry permit owner when you're in contact with the police, especially given the subtext that might be floating around out there about other episodes that the police may be aware of that you're not. And if you're one of those who believes that racism is pervasive in American society, and let's be honest, I can't say as I entirely blame you if you do, although I think the response to that we may differ on potentially here, all the more reason to take that level of care when dealing with the police. And also a good reason to take care. We talked about Berg's 18th law, which means ignore everything the media says in the first 48 hours after every emotionally charged event. As we saw with the Dallas shooting, pretty much everything the media said, other than the number of casualties, was wrong. It wasn't an AR-15. It wasn't 3 snipers triangulating. It wasn't automatic weapons fire. It wasn't much of anything the media said, as we're finding out right now. One thing you can always accept for truth is that the Minnesota gun control movement, in the personalities of Every Town for Gun Safety, Moms Want Action, and especially Protect Minnesota, will be tone-deaf, callous, and deeply depraved. And I say deeply depraved because it didn't used to always be that way. Heather Martens, the former director of Protect Minnesota, was just merely comically doddering. Whereas the new director seems to have brought in a attitude of being, how can I put this, a blood-sucking ghoul. With us to discuss Protect Minnesota's reaction to the events of this past week in Falcon Heights and Dallas from the Minnesota Gun Owners Caucus, Brian Strasser. And I will point out that the term blood-sucking ghoul is mine. This is not something that the Gun Owners Caucus endorses. But with that in mind, Brian, welcome to the broadcast today.
Hey, good afternoon, Mitch. Thanks for having me.
Great to have you on the show, Brian, here. First of all, the Gun Owners Caucus has reacted to a press release by the Reverend Nancy Nord-Bentz of Protect Minnesota regarding the events of this past week. It was a long, somewhat rambly press release. How would you characterize the press release by the Reverend Nord-Bentz regarding the events this past week?
You know, when I was taught how to communicate to a mass audience like this, where you're trying to get folks to remember your messages, I was told quite bluntly to be good, be brief, be gone, and their press release was anything but that. I'm still not quite sure what the core message of their release was, other than guns are bad and you should give us money.
Yeah, it read like a sermon, and not the kind of sermon that's going to be packing the pews necessarily. So yeah, it was very unclear. I grazed it because, quite frankly, it earned a TLDR. Too long, don't read. Didn't read. It was. I'm going to have to write about it this coming week because it's going to be comedy gold in its own way. And when I say comedy gold, I'm being cynical. Obviously, some horrible events this past week, and yet the context I did get from this press release was, well, I kind of gave it already. I mean, I get the impression that these people are blood-sucking ghouls who are using the blood of a potentially innocent man in Falcon Heights and 5 cops in Dallas for the most craven, cowardly political capital you can possibly earn in our society. And perhaps maybe your connection's gone better, or maybe you've just... Okay, fair enough. I just thought it was an incredibly cheap attack by Protect Minnesota against Minnesota's law-abiding gun owners.
Well, it's a really difficult. I think it's a really difficult position for them to be in, because how does a gun control group stand up and say that they, are opposed to the kind of violence that appears to have happened in this shooting in Falcon Heights, without acknowledging the fact that he was exercising his legal Second Amendment right to carry a firearm under a Minnesota permit to carry?
Yeah.
And there's some really convoluted logic going on their part to refer to that.
And in fact,
without referring to it.
Actually, in fact, the first press release that they released after the St. Anthony Park Falcon Heights shooting, before the Dallas event happened, was in its way almost as it was a work of really bad art, watching the moral gymnastics and logical gymnastics that they had to play, because I mean, basically it was, they painted it eventually, by the time they got around to the point, as Philando Castile's fault that he had a gun. And if only we big bad shooters hadn't tempted this perfectly innocent man into getting a carry permit, he might be alive today. Almost as dumb as Mark Dayton's remark.
My favorite part of Protect Minnesota's commentary over the weekend is that they've linked multiple times to a Star Tribune story authored by Abby Simons that features quotes from our organization about what the law says about how a permit holder should interact with the police, what you're required to disclose, and when you're required to disclose that. And they've linked this multiple times, despite the fact that they will not allow us in any way, shape, or form to comment on their Facebook page.
Yeah, no, that's right. And in fact, the extent and vigor with which they avoid any public engagement with people who can show them up on the facts is almost like a Horatio Alger story in reverse. It's like people working their way down in terms of general moral regard. I mean, of course, you're familiar with the story. Last time I tried to interview Heather Martens before she left the group, just I think within weeks before she left Protect Minnesota, she tried to charge $1,500. I tried to say,
to come on your show.
Yeah, to come on the show. And of course, to which I responded, well, okay, you want $3,000 worth of my airtime, so you can pony me up $1,500 and we'll call it even. She never did respond to that. But this is, I mean, I'm not sure how to respond to these sorts of episodes on the part of these sorts of comments, statements on the part of Minnesota gun control groups, other than just to think, okay, they're trying to tell a big lie often enough, loudly enough, and with a straight enough face to convince the gullible. I mean, I don't know what else they expect to get out of these sorts of communications.
It does seem that Reverend Bentz, the new executive director, has been in the public eye more than Heather Martens was. I wonder if you invited her on the show, what her response would be.
You know, that's not a half bad idea. I might have to give that a proverbial shot here. I've not actually reached out to the good Reverend yet here, so I might just have to take a run at that and see what her billable rate is per hour on the air. Comparison shopping. We'll see how that works. So, Brian, what is you're of course here representing Minnesota Gun Owners Caucus. One of a number of excellent groups that have been carrying the standard in the legislature and out on the street for Minnesota's gun owners for decades now. What's the caucus's position on? Let's start with Protect Minnesota's response. What's the group's response been so far?
Well, we actually issued a challenge to them today in response to their latest press release and Facebook postings, which is basically. We would like to see them put their money and their volunteer time where their mouth is. If they really believe that their group is about gun safety, then come with us into North Minneapolis, where we plan to conduct, in association with some churches, firearms safety training for at-risk youth and others who have purchased firearms for self-defense but have not received any training, either because they don't know where to go to get it, or they simply can't afford to be able to do so. I'd like to see them actually take some steps with us to do that. I suspect that they won't.
Yeah, no, and one can hope. I mean, one can hope that someone will some of these people and these groups even hopefully will at least look for the opportunities to actually affect people's lives. For example, roughly a month or so ago, at the beginning of June, when the various gun control groups in their orange shirts marched through North Minneapolis to plead for an end to gun violence and went where the gun violence actually was to speak to the people who are killing each other here in the Twin Cities and walk down Plymouth Avenue and down Broadway and Dowling and actually reach out to. I'm sorry, I can't keep a straight face. No, they didn't. They were in downtown.
They went to the bridge.
They went to the south side of the Stone Arch Bridge by the Whitney Hotel, some of the most valuable real estate in Minnesota, to preach to the converted and nobody else whatsoever here. So have you heard back from anyone at Protect Minnesota or Moms Want Action about this challenge by any chance, Brian Strasser?
No, and the challenge was to Protect Minnesota. We didn't put it out to the Moms Demand Actions group, but we haven't heard anything. I don't expect that we're going to hear anything, but we'll certainly answer the phone if they do call.
Okay. Well, I will put out a feeler to Protect Minnesota and perhaps Moms Want I should probably speak more respectfully of their moniker if I want them to accept my invitation. Moms, demand action. Seriously. So I'll send out invitations to them and to the Everytowns just to see if we can get that conversation they keep talking about going. And by the way, speaking of conversation, have you been able to get back on any of their Facebook pages to comment yet, Brian?
No, I'm banned from all of the gun control groups' Facebook pages and Twitter as well.
Oh, really? Yeah, no, me too. Yeah. All of them.
In fact, Mitch, there was an individual who called us out on her Facebook page and happened to leave her comments open, who's a Protect Minnesota supporter, and I commented, "Hey, gun violence is at a 49-year low. What gun violence prevention measures do you believe should be enacted?" And rather than respond and engage in a respectful conversation, she deleted my comment and blocked me on Facebook.
Really? Well, that's about par for the course in my experience as well, Brian Strasser. So keep us up to date on any responses from Protect Minnesota on your invitation. And by the way, keep us up to date on the effort to go into North Minneapolis and teach people gun safety, because whether you are dignified with the presence of Nancy and her ELCA coiffed followers, this sounds like a very valuable effort. So if y'all go ahead with that, let us know and be happy to put the word out to people. So we're talking
we'll have more to share soon on that.
Excellent. Brian Strasser from the Minnesota Gun Owners Caucus and the Minnesota Gun Owners Political Action Committee. Keep us posted on that. Great. Glad you could join us today, Brian. Hope you're enjoying the weekend, and we'll talk with you soon.
Thanks, Mitch.
Absolutely. Brian Strasser from the Minnesota Gun Owners Caucus. I'll post a link to their website as well as some of the other Minnesota gun rights organizations who are busy working to protect your Second Amendment rights out and about there. I want to come back to that subject when we return from our break here, which we will take right now. It's the Northern Alliance Radio Network, AM 1280 The Patriot. My name, Mitch Berg. Much more to come. Go nowhere. I'll be right back.
The doctor's coming. Oh, please, gotta be. The doctor's coming. Everybody, all of y'all are there bringing peace all over this world.
AM 1280 The Patriot.
Nick Anderson, General Manager of AM 1280 The Patriot. I'm with Keith Hittner Sr. of the Rack Shack, and I am so thrilled. We have the Patriot Burger on the menu.
It is a brisket and chuck half-pound burger. We throw it down on the flat top in rendered brisket, and we called it the Patriot Burger. Red, white, and blue through and through. Got the American flag sticking out the top, American cheese on that thing, and bacon. What can be better than that?
There were fresh cut fries with mine. $12.80.
$12.80 with
burger with extras, right?
With a side, you get a hand-cut fries if you'd like, our homemade chips if you'd like that, or any of the other sides on the menu.
And it's available at
the Rack Shack Barbecue. Go in, look at the menu. You'll see the AM 1280 The Patriot logo on there. Just say, I want that one, and they'll know exactly what to do.
So we're looking Burnsville and West St. Paul.
Burnsville and West St. Paul.
Awesome. Thanks, Keith.
You bet.
$12.80.
Genius.
Hi, this is Terry Sandvold, CEO of Sandvold Financial Group and host of Money Talks here every weekend. Our company specializes in 3 areas. Number 1 is wealth management. Number 2 is retirement planning. And number 3 is proper insurance planning. Give us a call for no-cost financial review, 952-544-2837.
Registered representative of and securities offered through Questar Capital Corporation, QCC, member FINRA, SIPC. Advisory services offered through Questar Asset Management, QAM, a registered investment advisor. Sandvold Financial Group is independent of QCC and QAM.
Are you being denied credit? Are you paying high interest rates? At CreditRepair.com, we know life happens. Divorce, medical bills, student loans, and many other reasons why credit scores fall. That's why at CreditRepair.com, we're committed to helping folks get the second chance they deserve to improve their credit.
CreditRepair.com is actually acting as an advocate for me. Things that I thought when you paid them off, they were still on there. Things that I didn't even know were on there, but they got them removed. I feel they're doing what they said they'd do and beyond. I'm not going to abuse this second chance that they gave me. I'm in the process now of buying a home. CreditRepair.com actually does work.
We can help you get a second chance at great credit. The consultation is free and includes a free credit score and summary credit report. We'll review your current credit situation right on the phone with a game plan to restore it. Call 800-795-4800. That's 800-795-4800. Again, 800-795-4800. 800-795-4800.
Here's what you'll hear at the Fish Twin Cities.
DC Talk. Consumed by fire. Dave Barnes.
Online or on your smartphone. thefishtwincities.com. Safe for the whole family.
AM 1280 The Patriot, Northern Alliance Radio Network, 651-289-4488, the number to call. Join us, won't you please? Just a couple of reminders as we head into the final segment here. First of all, just a reminder, my band Elephant in the Room will be making its first debut public gig a week from this coming Friday, July 22nd, at the Driftwood Char Bar in South Minneapolis. It's, if you remember South Minneapolis back in the day, it's the former Westrom's space, 44th and Nicollet. Oh yeah, they've remodeled it. It's a pretty nice joint these days. So come on down, see the band. We're going to be playing a bunch of favorites from the 60s through the early 2000s, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So stop on down, check us out. I'll be hanging out after the gig, by the way. Once we get loaded out, I'm going to be hanging around to talk guitars, music, probably anything but politics at the bar afterwards. So if you want to have a mini mob party, this is going to be a great time. So come on out to the Driftwood Char Bar, South Minneapolis, on July 22nd. There might even be some surprises there. We're working on that. So we'll get you up on that in the future here. Also, I want to extend this invitation to the Reverend Nancy Nord-Bentz of Protect Minnesota. Now, I have had, and if I'm sure she's not listening right now, but I'd like to think that someone involved with her organization might be reachable to pass on my continued invitation to her to appear on this broadcast. I have had an open invitation out to her predecessor, Heather Martens, going back to 2004. 12 years now, I've had an invitation extended to her predecessor. And I'll continue that invitation. I will allow her on for an hour or two, any Saturday of her choice. I will clear other guests out of the way to get her on the air. If she wants to come in and do it into the studio, we can do it here. If she wants to do it by phone, we'll do it by phone. If she can't make it on a Saturday because she's getting her sermon ready for Sunday, heck, I'll come in anytime and record an interview with her. I will come to her place to record the interview with her. I will meet her on neutral ground to record an interview any place of her convenience. That's how badly I want to have that conversation about guns with the Reverend Nancy Nord-Bentz. So if you happen to know the good Reverend, please pass this sincere and not at all snarky invitation to her. I mean it as sincerely as I've ever meant anything in my life. Please pass the invitation on to her. So during the break, Laurel in St. Paul, actually during the last segment when we were talking with Brian Strasser, Laurel in St. Paul called, and she had a question about the video that was taken from the scene of the shooting in Falcon Heights this past week, where a woman, Philander Castile's girlfriend, Lavish Reynolds, shot a video selfie of her narrative immediately after the shooting. And it was very immediately after the shooting, by the way. The officer involved was yelling, clearly somewhat overtaken by events. You can see the officer's gun out the side window. And the question that Laurel in St. Paul asks is one that I've seen on social media over the last 48 hours or so. What on earth was she doing shooting a video when she should have been busy rendering assistance? And I understand the question, I do. I also understand Ms. Reynolds' response. And I'll just put it this way. Among communities that are expecting controversy, And this can mean anyone from Black Lives Matter to Second Amendment advocates who are concerned about having contact with law enforcement. A lot of people, not going to name names, will have on their smartphones a instant streaming application up and ready to go just in case they need to start videotaping their interactions with the police. And furthermore, they will frequently, and this is advice that's given to people by law enforcement reform and privacy activists, to start streaming immediately to the web. Don't store it on your phone because that can be wiped, and if you're worried about that sort of thing, you don't want to get your stuff wiped. And so you want it to go directly out to YouTube or to Ustream or to Facebook's new live streaming features, which is what Ms. Reynolds did, streamed herself to Facebook. Now, Laurel's question was, shouldn't she have rendered assistance to her boyfriend who was bleeding out in the seat next to her? That's one question I've heard. And the response is, yeah, that might have been my first action. And on the other hand, if you are focused on a gross injustice that's taken place right next to you, you got time to do one of two things and not both. What are you going to do? And if you are of the impression that there's really nothing you can do because someone seems to be stricken that badly, then what is your choice? Where are you going to have the most impact? It's really a real-life Sophie's choice. And I'm not going to say I know the right answer. I mean, I know the one I'd prefer to do. I know the one I'd like to think I had the presence of mind to do, quite frankly. Which brings us to the other question. Didn't Lavish Reynolds seem very cool, calm, and collected under the circumstances? Didn't she seem to be pretty much in control of herself? And I think, yeah, that kind of a stressful situation, that is a little unusual. And the only response I have is this. There are people in this. One of the things you're taught in carry permit training is when you're in a situation of extreme stress, the adrenaline dump you get usually makes it extremely difficult to respond effectively with anything other than punching or running. That's why it's called a fight or flight response. That's why they don't teach you to shoot for legs and arms when you're in those situations, because the adrenaline dump will make fine adjustments of your aim really impossible. That's why they teach you to shoot for center mass, because it's the only thing you're going to hit anyway, most likely. There's an exception to that, and that is people who, a tiny subsection of the population who have a biochemical ability, it's an enzyme really, that allows them to process adrenaline productively. And a tiny percent of the population has it, and Special Forces selection has been selecting for this biochemical marker for decades without knowing what it was. But it turns out most people who get through it have this ability to convert, basically stay in control of an adrenaline rush, to use the strength and the alertness and the hypervigilance that it gives you without panicking, without soiling themselves, without losing control of their muscles. All of them. Is that what Lavish Reynolds was? I don't know. Did she make the right choice? That's between her and God. I couldn't tell you here. I hope I would have the presence of mind to do either in that circumstance. All I can tell you, folks, we're still in the 48-hour brought to you by Berg's 18th Law. I don't know. We'll talk next week. God bless you all. God bless America.
How would you like to get $3,000 in jewelry for half price? AM 1280 The Patriot and Evergreen Jewelers in Minnetonka are offering you the special half price deal. Need an engagement ring? Want a new watch? Need a gift for a birthday or anniversary? For AM 1280 The Patriot listeners only, you can now buy a $3,000 gift certificate to Evergreen Jewelers for just $1,500. There's only one available, so call the station now. 651-405-8800. That's 405-8800.
People say there are billions of dollars lost in a market crash. The truth is, they're not lost, they just exchange hands. And the good news is, by gaining the right kind of knowledge, you can learn to recognize the opportunities that exist and, more importantly, act on them. I'm Pastor David Mitchell, founder of Tradeway. Along with being an investment advisor, Tradeway offers our students a powerful education so that they can take their investments in their own hands. We break down the confusing world of finance so that you can understand it. We keep it simple, fun, and personal. Come join us at our next 2-day event called Step 1 Start Your Journey. You'll learn to take small steps to reach your biggest goals.
Coming to the Minneapolis Marriott West, July 29th and 30th. Only $99.95 for your entire household, plus a free ticket for a friend and a full money-back guarantee. To register, call 877-907-TRADE. That's 877-907-8723. Or go to Tradeway.com. That's Tradeway.com.
It's been called the greatest libertarian show on earth, attended by Donald Trump, Steve Forbes, Glenn Beck, and the most brilliant conservative minds today. It's Freedom Fest, July 13th through the 16th at the Planet Hollywood in Las Vegas. This year, come hear Senator Rand Paul, author George Gilder, Judge Andrew Napolitano, and more. And don't miss your chance to win $25,000 in prizes organized by Shark Tank's Kevin Harrington. Register now at freedomfest.com and save $100 by using the code SALEM, all caps, at freedomfest.com.
Hi, this is Lisa.
And my name is Elizabeth. We are the new talk show hosts for a radio show called River Ahava Wellness. Together, we will journey in discovery of ourselves personally, learning to apply simple life-changing principles, how to make daily day decisions to really change and reset your own personal life.
You're going to be hearing testimonies, healthcare experts, our story, and we'll be having a little fun.
River Ahava Wellness, every weekday morning at 8 on our sister station, Wellness 1570.
You work hard for your money, so make sure that your money works hard for you. Tune in to the new Business 1440 for up-to-the-minute market updates, coverage, and analysis on all that's happening in the financial world. Get financial advice from experts like Dave Ramsey, King Banyan, and Ray Lucia, plus Bloomberg market updates all day right here on the new Business 1440. Download the free mobile app for your smartphone or tablet or listen online at TwinCitiesBusinessRadio.com. Business 1440, part of the Wall Street Business Network.